So my goal today is to put in a couple of food plots. Now, I've already got one that I seeded about 3 weeks ago. It's a small food plot that I'll be doing some hunting over maybe later this fall. And that's seeded purely in clover. The next food plot I want to do, well, 2 or 3 more food plots actually. One will be right here, right up against this tree line. There's a small divot here in the edge of the forest, and I'm going to seed that to a combination of winter rye and clover. So let's get on with why I am here, and that's to seed this blend to 3 more or 4 more food plots maybe. The reason why I'm going with a blend is because of what I'm seeing. One in the feed, in the discussion forums that I participate in, but also as a part of land management, I've really been very interested in a few concepts for the last few years. It began with the concept of what's called back to Eden gardening. And I'll put a link to the website where you can see a free documentary about that whole concept. And really, it all goes to keeping a cover on your garden, a cover of mulch, and what that does is actually helps retain moisture in your soil. It helps build the biota, the better environment for the biota that live in your soil, the mycorrhizal fungi, the insects that live there, the earthworms that live there, and improve the soil. And it also helps to suppress weeds in your garden. Well, I've been doing that for a number of years, and it's been very successful for me. And so I've gone from just looking at what I can do in my garden to looking at what I can do for the rest of my property. I've been looking at cover cropping, and there are a lot of great videos out on YouTube with regard to cover cropping in large agricultural settings. At the same time, I've become interested in hunting again, and I've really taken in a lot of information about food plots and how to use them when you're hunting. And I came to the realization I could do something between cover cropping and food plotting that sort of blends the two together. One of the things they've learned in cover cropping in the last few years is that single species cover cropping, while it's good, is not as good as multi-species cover cropping. And if you get out there and start doing some research, you'll find that some of the most successful cover cropping operations have blends of 6, 8, 12 different types of plant that all come together, work together, and really dramatically and quickly improve the soil. Now, I'm not going to go that far with it just yet, maybe eventually sometime, but for my purposes here, early on, I do want to try a blend of at least 2 different varieties, and I've read a lot of great things about starting out, if you're getting into this kind of stuff, with winter rye, which does a cool season grass, does very well in cold temperatures, and clover, which also handles cool temperatures very well and does a lot to improve the soil, adding nitrogen to the soil. So that's what I'm getting started with here. I've got 5 pounds of winter rye, ordered this off of eBay for a very good price, and I've got 5 pounds of a clover blend that I ordered from Hancock Seed Company. To get the ball rolling, obviously we got to get these 2 types of seed mixed. Now, I don't know how well this is going to work coming out of the Earthway seeder because I've got 2 very different seed sizes. I've got this rather large winter rye seed versus what's a very tiny seed for this this clover blend. Clover seeds are very small, so I'm not really sure how well they're going to work together coming out of a single seeder, but we're going to find out. Looks like some of these seeds are actually a little little larger than others, but there's some very tiny seeds in there. I'm not sure if you can really see that, but there's some really small stuff in there. So we're just going to blend it all together. Okay. Okay, so part of my goal here is to see just how little ground prep I can get away with and still be successful in establishing a food plot, a dual species food plot at the very least. So what I'm doing here, I've got this little strip here in my woodlot that never had a lot of cover. It did have a lot of small brushy kind of trees growing in it, and so I came in here in January and February, did a little bit of chainsaw work, some handsaw work, and some raking, and pulled out the shrubby woody stuff that was here, trimmed down some of the greenbrier that was growing, but didn't rake a whole lot of the debris off of the ground. So there's a lot of downed grasses and oak leaves that are here, and those tend to cause a problem with seed to soil contact. I know, but it's also still very early in the season. It's late March, and so I'm counting on rain, spring rain, to help me get the seed down through some of this debris and in closer contact with the soil over the next few weeks. And my goal is to see, if that's successful, just how little ground prep I can get away with and still establish a reasonable food plot stand based on using winter rye, which is a very aggressive grower, and a mix of clovers that will do well underneath the winter rye through the course of the summer. The clover doesn't mind the shade. Later in the summer, if everything goes well, I'll come in here with a weed whacker, take the winter rye down, give the clover more exposure to sun, and hopefully that will leap up in time for bow season in September. So let me get to spreading. I've got a little bit here to spread behind me, and then I've got a little bit more off to my right, your left, to spread, and we'll see how this all goes. Okay, so we're out here on the edge of my woodlot. This is south behind me to your left, and north to your right. So this area gets great sunlight all day long throughout the summer and winter. And as I mentioned earlier, this is this used to be grazing pasture about 15 years ago, before this property was all sold off and a number of houses were built here. And I've still got a lot of the same kind of graze coming up out here. You can see we've got some broom sedge growing out there. We've got what I believe is a variety of Lespedeza that comes in pretty strong in the summertime. A number of different types of grasses. I'm sure there's got to be some fescue and things like that in here. A little wild garlic growing all over the place. And recently, in the last couple of years, we've had this new species of grass show up. It's an invasive. I'm not sure what it is, but it's the tallest grass that you see growing out there in various clumps. I want to say feather reed grass, but I don't quote me on that. It could be something different. So I need to look into it harder and try to identify it. I just know that every year I see more and more of it encroaching on fields, and doing so rapidly, where I used to never see this particular grass at all. So my goal is I want to seed this spot again using the earthway spreader with the blend of winter rye and clover seed, and I haven't done anything to clear or clean or get down to the ground on this. So yeah, maybe I'm throwing my money away, at least on the clover seed, if not on the winter rye. But I just want to see how well this might work, because if there's a chance this will work for other folks who don't have implements, can't get out there and really prep the ground just to get a food plot in, if this will work, I'd like to pass that along and try to give something back to the community. So that's the goal here. I'm going to go ahead and seed this little alcove from here up to the next point where the trees come out from the forest. And what I'll be seeding is basically into this tall grass and along this this tree track that I've kept mowed over the last couple of years. So if anything, this will be the test to see that just how well this seed will take in a mowed area versus something that hasn't been mowed. Okay, so I've gone through about half of my seed just between these two little plots, and there's two other areas that I want to get to. They're smaller than this, but I do want to make sure I get some seed down on them. So I'm going to go over there, throw some seed down between the orchard, or under the orchard, and another little divot that's right around the corner here. Try to get some seed on that as well. Okay, so I'm down to about the last pound of my seed mix, and I want to take this over here and put it out on one last little divot that might help to establish a food plot here along the tree line to benefit the deer. There wasn't a whole lot of seed that went in there, but this area got mowed last year, so there's not as much roughage here as there was over in the area I did just a little while ago, or where I'm about to go to. We'll see how well this does later on in the summer. Okay, so this next piece is the smallest stretch that I'll do. It's just this little divot right here, basically from the camera over to that corner where the trees are. I want to try to get some of this seed blend down here and create just one more little hidey hole area. This is fairly private back in here. I see the deer out here grazing quite a bit, so I want to try to improve the nutrition that they have to graze on. I have a feeling the winter rye is going to be the key to smothering the some of the grasses that come up and compete with the clover. I'm thinking that if I can get a good cover crop of winter rye early in the spring, it will suppress the grasses and sedges and invasive plants that are coming into this pasture, and hold back their growth enough through the summer that I can come and try seeding clover into the winter rye late in the summer, maybe August, September timeframe, put the seed down then and drop the rye on top of it, roll the rye down, press it down so that it dies and holds moisture down close to the seed, continues to suppress the weeds and allows the clover seed a chance to sprout and grow for a fall crop. So we'll see how it goes. Check back in with me in a couple of months, and I'll post an update to how these plots are doing with nothing more than a mix of winter rye, clover seed, broadcast seeder spread right on the ground through minimal ground prep, almost zero ground prep in some situations. It's just a fun little experiment. I want to see how it works, and if it works, hey, hopefully it'll work for you as well. All right, bye.